That brings us to item number 18 of our discussion agenda, discussion of parameters for fiscal year 2021, general fund budget. I assume this will be Mr. Richards.
Thank you, Chairman Cates. Apologize for saying your name wrong.
Nobody would have noticed if you had said anything.
This me? We'll get there eventually. Thank you. Very briefly, I just want to give you an idea of what we can expect. Obviously, this is budget time of year for us. Just kind of want to give you an idea of what to expect. We will be coming in April with a version of our general fund budget. Just to give you a little bit of idea, or just a reminder of what we did for the current year, we increased our general fund budget by a little over $7 million, which included some increased costs for our school resource officers, some additional mental health case managers. We obviously had to increase the cost for some of our technology licensing and fees. We also did not, at the time, include in our budget a $500 loyalty bonus for our district employees, and then all of our 4% salary increases and step increases and fringe benefits increases total a little better than $7.9 million. This is to recap what it was. It was a balanced budget of $195,794,553. We did come back to you last month with a general fund budget addendum. Just want to remind you of that. That was when we moved or approved the almost $4.3 million we moved from the general fund. $500 loyalty bonus going to our employees, which costs approximately $1.5 million. That will be paid on April the 6th. Then we'll have an exact figure for what that will cost us. And then the difference there will be moved to the capital improvements budget, which we just discussed. This is the State House budget calendar. And if you look at this, you will notice that the Senate has not provided us a calendar on what their schedule will be in budget discussions, but the House has actually begun deliberations today on this. They will be on furlough next week, but hopefully they will get this budget out prior to the end of the week. This is the internal district budget calendar. Obviously, we're talking about the parameters tonight. We plan on coming back on April 6th for a discussion, reading of the general fund budget, and then hopefully we'll have the budget completed by May 18th. This is just some of the numbers that will be used in the calculations of base student costs and everything. You can see what was provided to us the current year in the blue. And then obviously the recommendations made for next year, 2021. If the base student costs were fully funded in 2021, it would amount to $3,164. The Department of Education actually requested a base student cost of $2,722, and what has come out of the Ways and Means budget so far is $2,500, which is approximately $664 below where it's supposed to be by law. Just to give you a little bit of a background, back in 2008, the base student cost was actually $2,476. So that was before the Great Recession, and we're just now getting above where we were in 2008. Here's some of the recommendations that the Ways and Means Committee provided to us. There will be included in their version of the budget a $3,000 increase for each certified teacher. That's to the tune of $213.4 million. There were $16 million added to the EFA, the base student cost, just to maintain the current level of funding with the growth in students statewide. And then an additional $10.3 million is added to that to get the base student cost to $2,500, which is an $11 increase over the current year. Actually, it's a $13 increase over the current year, because we've been capped at $2,487. We were appropriated $2,489 for the current year. We're expecting a state health plan increase of 6.73%. There's been $9 million added to the budget to cover that. That's on the employer. There are no plans currently to pass on any of these increases to the employees. $25.5 million for school bus leases, and additional $10 million for school resource officers. And I do want to go back up to the base student cost increase of $11. There's some strings attached to that one. In order to receive that additional funding, our district would have to implement a policy that would actually prohibit the use of personal electronic communication devices, cell phones, by students anytime during classroom instruction time.
Which item was that?
Pardon?
Which item was that?
That was going back to the $11 increase in the base student cost.
Will you say that again?
Hold on, can we let Ms. Richardson finish, please?
Sure. Right here, the $10.3 million, the third item on the third bullet there. If you look, in order to receive $11 in additional base student cost, the district would have to have and implement a policy that prohibits the use of personal electronic communication devices by students during classroom instructional time. Not sure how that would be policed. Hopefully that will not stay in the budget, but that's the way it reads right now, based on ways and means committee. There are also $60 million added for capital improvements for the rural school districts. I'm kind of glad to see this item. The Office of School Facilities is adding 2 additional FTEs. They received an additional $247,300 for that to help with some of the increased building going across the state. We're looking at $15.1 million going to a new and improved student information system, which is currently PowerSchool. $76.5 million of non-recurring funding going to instructional materials. And then there's an expansion of the 4K program to the tune of $45.8 million. Here's some of the things that we are going to have to consider, obviously, during our budget building process. We already know that our employer contributions for retirement are going up by 1%. The health insurance that I mentioned earlier is going up by 6.73%. We have the mandated $3,000 salary increase for teachers. Typically, we do something for all the other district employees. I'm not sure what we would do at this particular time, but that's a consideration. Obviously, step increases for all our eligible employees, and then any additional staff we might need to meet board requirements for class size ratios. This is just to give you an idea of what our millage increase, allowable millage increase would be for next year. We do not know what the population growth for the district is at this time. We should be getting that hopefully in the next week or so. But right now, we would be, based upon what I'm looking at now, we would be just limited to 1.81% increase of our total millage of 256.9 mils. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. This is item number 18. On our discussion agenda are the questions. Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Richardson, I think I read in today's state paper, I think it was, where the Senate had passed their version of the education bill, and that included an increase of $147 with the basic student cost.
I'm not sure about that. I know that they did pass a version of the reform bill, and it had some items in there for teacher supply. I don't recall if there's anything in there with base student cost.
I think I read that today, but anyway, so that basically the House has to vote on their version, and then they get a conference committee.
Yes, sir.
To do all that, so there's no guarantee any of that will come out of the wash, so.
No, sir, there is not. And I would make the assumption that any increase to base student cost needs to be done through the appropriation process anyway, not through a reform bill.
Oh, okay. And so that can't, so that has to come from the House, right? Anything that does with increase?
Well, the Senate can add, once their version of the budget, the House version of the budget gets to the Senate, then they can make any changes that they see fit at that time. And just so you know, and I don't know if this is gonna happen this year, but with, coronavirus and the economy, being a little unstable right now, I know we were looking at record dollars in this state, record surpluses in this state. I'm not so sure if there's gonna be some change in those outlooks now with what's going on. So the Senate could conceivably have less money to deal with than the House did before it's all said and done.
Other questions? Ms. Hayden?
I wanted to ask about the mandated $3,000 salary increase for teachers. Is that going to be given, though, that's in the state budget to the district?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
They're funding that 100%.
That's what I thought.
Most of the new money education is getting is going directly towards salary, so we don't have a whole lot of flexibility
Right.
for anything else.
Good. That was mine. And then about the cell phone, I'm sorry, I hit that. That's just sort of, I guess, the caveat to try and help teachers out with the distraction of cell phones in the room.
Well, I don't know the reason behind it, honestly, but it
Well, I
was,
think that's-
part of a proviso having to do with just to help stop bullying.
Right. And then I was just thinking about our program that we already had a presentation for. That would hurt that, in the sense of using their phone, unless they could just use their device. But I will say, and I'd like to say it for teachers in the classroom all around, I hear from teachers every day about, we really are hamstrung about phones because it's hard to police it. And it does keep a child from focusing, especially middle school kids. You have to take them and get them off of them all the time. And it's a distraction of learning in the learning environment. And I think that some of the people that are making the laws have listened to that from some teachers. I think that's where that came from. And you wouldn't think it's a problem, but spend a day in a classroom.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Mr. White?
I'm looking at the budget considerations, and you said the $3,000 salary increase was funded by the legislature.
Yes, sir.
Anticipate.
Anticipated, yeah. But going back, the rest of these items, these are sort of things that really don't affect. We're not making any decisions. These are things we're going to have to deal with no matter what.
I just want to make you aware.
And these are the costs that go up by us doing nothing. So the first one, is that a retirement plan and employer contribution increase? Is that what that is?
The 1%?
1%.
Yes, sir, that is. And we've known that's going to be increasing on an annual basis, at least in 2022.
And then health insurance premiums are increasing 6.73%.
That's correct. On the employer.
On employer, that's us. Then the cost of living increase for all of the district employees, what is that?
We don't know that. I mean, that's what's been recommended is not an across-the-board raise for teachers, obviously. It's not a percent tied to it. It's a flat $3,000 per teacher. So we would have to determine what we want to do for our other employees.
That's a recommendation for other employees.
Yes, sir.
The legislature's not funding this either.
Well, the legislature, that's not something that's traditionally funded.
Yeah.
That's where increased base student cost gives us a little bit of flexibility to be able to do those kind of things.
So the step increase, how much is that going to be for our staff?
I don't know for just teachers. Typically, for every employee, it's going to run us about $3 million. But teachers is going to be less than that, just teachers.
And then we got our class size policy and federal state department. So do we know whether or not we're going to have a chance at a balanced budget with all these items?
I don't know that because we're still, computing numbers and everything. But based on, I started out a lot more optimistic when this budget process started, you know, just knowing that all the additional funds that the state.
Unusual, Mr. Richardson.
Pardon?
That's unusual.
It is, but I'm back to reality now, and,
So you're no longer
not so
optimistic?
much, I'm thinking this is not gonna be a pretty year for us if it stays the way, it's currently being proposed.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Lovelace.
Last year, I believe, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but the increases in the salaries for the teachers were covered, the PRT&I, or of the fringe benefits, payroll taxes, insurance, and so forth, were covered, but not for other employees.
That's correct.
Okay, so if this $3,000 is increased this year, and, you know, so that, would we have to pay the PRT&I on that, or just anything else that we wanted to do?
There is funding to come along for all the fringe benefits that go along with that $3,000 as well.
Okay.
But we don't have, but that's strictly what it's gotta be used for, so we don't have any flexibility there. It's going straight, it's on a per teacher basis,
Okay.
is how that's funded.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, and I know we'll see this again. And Mr. Richardson, I think we often talk about base student costs, and help me to be clear. The reason that is so important is because that's one of the few revenue streams that comes to the district without a lot of strings attached. It's not, other than every now and then they'll want you to do a policy, but that's about as clean a source of revenue as we get from the state.
Yes, sir, it's not specific to some things, so we do have a little flexibility there.
Thank you, and again, we'll see this again in the coming months. Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Brings us to item number 19, discussion of proposed school board meeting calendar. It's presented in Exhibit H. I believe Ms. Goggins is going to present this item.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Keats. Each year, the district creates a board meeting schedule for the upcoming school year per the guidelines provided in Policy BE, school board meetings. These meetings are normally twice a month, usually on the second or fourth Monday per the policy, to allow the board time to do its important duties and actions. Before you tonight is a draft of the schedule for the 2020-21 school year. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Melton and Chairman Cates for any discussion from the administration.
Questions for Ms. Goggins regarding the calendar proposed in Exhibit H?
I have a
Ms.
question.
Hammond.
Want me to give it to Ms. Scott, or to Dr. Melton? Dr. Melton, I was just looking, I don't have a problem with it because I kind of think it's easier on our employees when we have the meetings at the district office like we used to. So I'm just going to say it's just an opinion of mine, but I'd like yours. To have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at the district office, because then they don't have to carry everything. I mean, I've just heard employees, they would never complain to the superintendent, I'm sure. But, you know, I do know it's easier, and, you know, inclement weather, you have to carry things. I do know that the Center for Advanced Technical Studies has so much there, and we have a lot of them there. So I just thought it was good, and it's also central. I just wanted to say that. I think it's convenient for whether I'm from Irmo or I'm coming from Chapin. It's in the center. Thank you. But I want to see if that had anything to do with it, or you have other reasons.
Yes, ma'am, that and a little bit more, because we try to listen to the feedback of our leaders that host our meetings. We try to make sure that we're sensitive to the location, the ease and the comfort of the board, and also the community being able to come in. Ms. Goggins and her team and executive staff, we've looked at policy as to what policy requires. So when we bring it to you is in compliance with policy. We want to make sure that we have an effective meeting, and knowing that, and I'll use some examples of the summertime, already having the buildings open from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m. and then tacking on a meeting longer. It's a more convenience to do it at the district office, not to put additional burden on the staff that's hosting. We have looked ahead at the events and tried to identify, and I'll use football as an example. If we were to win a state championship in football, when might that be? So we tried to make sure we looked for the right location to host those for cheerleading, for football, those other larger groups. We know that our students and their families enjoy being in front of the board, having that appreciation, you all having the chance to interact with them. So where you see the sprinkling of different locations is to make sure that we've got the appropriate times to be out in schools. Our art showed that our students had their artwork presented. We could not do that successfully with the district office, so we tried to look at those variables as well. And then, of course, looking to see when is testing season happening. We don't want to be in a school inconveniencing the staff, and the next morning they're starting testing at a very early time. We don't want to be a burden on them for that. So just what you described and a little bit more, that was part of the thought process that we're bringing to you this evening.
Thank you. And to be clear, whenever we are, not in the summertime, we typically don't spotlight in the summer, but even during the academic year, when we're at the center, we still intend to have our school board spotlights. So we always look forward to celebrating the outstanding accomplishments of our students and members of our faculty and staff and administration. Are there other questions? Thank you. That brings us to item number 20. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. White, is there a second? Mr. Lovelace, many in favor of the motion to adjourn, raise their hand. And I can tell you Ms. Hutchinson has both hands up and waving. Thank you for joining us.